This is Building Bridges with Michael Hershman.
Today, I'm honored to be joined by Michele Risa, the CEO and founder of Collaborative Solutions, and a global leader in advancing human connection and purpose-driven leadership. From building women's business incubators in post-Soviet Russia to launching Universities United, Michele has spent her career bridging divides and inspiring change. Michele, welcome. Let's dive right in. So you have a master's degree in psychology from Columbia University.
I do.
And you were born in Brooklyn.
I was.
So you're a local.
I am.
You describe yourself in part as a life coach.
Okay.
What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that? I think that's been in my blood since my days at Columbia, actually. My very first job was with neurologically impaired children on the Upper West Side. And I've always wanted to help those who needed help. Let me say it like that. So maybe not the title life coach back then. However, that was always my mission, Michael. It was just something I cared deeply about.
And your mission has grown from there.
Yes.
So what are you about, really? What kind of makes you tick?
Yes, you've asked me that. So really all of what you've just said about me, from 35 years ago in Russia, caring about women who were indiscriminately fired, to the Middle East, in the MENA region, Middle East, North Africa, where women didn't have an opportunity to have an entrepreneurship or gain job skills, and yes, now to bridging the gaps, the divides between universities, finding them very siloed instead of supporting each other. Like, for instance, Columbia didn't call Harvard, Harvard didn't call Columbia, as an example, and that really united, or I should say ignited, my desire to meet that need. So what makes me tick is sensing there's a need, and when it comes to the human family, I believe, like yourself, I really care, and I want to be a part of the solution, however I can best make that contribution. I can also read something to you that's a little more eloquent.
Sure, why don't you do that?
Okay.
I'd love to hear it.
Because you had asked me, and I, at 4 a.m, decided I'd write it, okay?
All right.
What makes me tick, and thank you for asking, it's the joy of being fully alive, of living with purpose, making a difference, and offering my unique contribution to the world. That, for me, is the real answer to the age-old question, who am I, and why am I here? I don't believe there's one universal meaning of life. Instead, I ask, what is the meaning of my life? That meaning doesn't come from outside. It emerges from my lived experience, from the story I've walked through, from the struggles I faced again and again, like many. In different forms, being fired from a job, divorce, a health crisis like cancer, and I will say all of them are gifts. I know they can be perceived otherwise, but I've learned and grown so much from each that I feel very blessed to have had them. And now I can say I've realized that the real dragon, and I'm mentioning Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, where he talks about the dragon that we slay, that the real dragon is not outside, but rather inside. And the part of me I denied, avoided, or was too afraid to face. And again, I'll say many of us are too afraid to face this inner dragon. The hero's journey isn't about conquering the world. It's about facing our deepest fears, our deepest pain, and discovering that what we thought would destroy us is the very thing that transforms us. What makes me tick is helping others connect to that story, to know it, to tell it, to live it, because that's where real transformation begins. And not with answers, but with courage to ask, who am I really? And who am I becoming? And the journey doesn't end there. It continues because we begin to truly live our story. We see how our stories connect us to others, to our shared humanness, to our collective healing, and to a deeper web of connection that's always been there, waiting for us to arrive more fully as ourselves.
Well, that's beautiful.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for asking.
So look, you went through a series of hardships. You mentioned getting fired from a job, getting divorced, a health crisis. Did you just wake up one morning and have an epiphany and say, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to be a different person? How did that happen?
Well, it happened over a long period of time. It didn't all happen in a year or two, yes? So all of those happened throughout my life. I would say just picking the most recent was cancer. And given I actually live a very healthy life, anyone who knew, what I eat, exercise, how I go to the gym, or I've run marathons as an example, I make sure I have enough sleep, right? I have my formula. I nurture relationships. And I'm saying that as a way of saying to your audience, find your formula for health. So despite my thinking I was doing enough, I was shocked when I found out I had cancer. And I sensed it before my doctors did. And I would say the beauty of that, Michael, was getting rid of the ongoing voice, which, well, what else can I do? I've been doing everything, meditating, and all of what I just also enumerated. And instead of blaming me or finding fault, I shifted into, if this is happening, which it was, then I must be able to learn something from it beyond what I know now. And that really opened me to live with the unknown. And maybe I can emphasize that with your audience. We're often afraid of the unknown. And I feel a great benefit or a great support is, we talk about innovation in business, and anytime we innovate something, every time you innovate, it's not something that already exists. By the definition, it's new, and it comes from the unknown. I really feel we are like a business. We are our masterpiece that needs to be chiseled all the time and changed. And so instead of looking at anything the way maybe often our society sees it as a negative, to know that this is the best school on the planet. This is.
Let's talk about society. So
okay.
There was a poll, I've discussed it on previous shows, that showed Americans are basically
miserable,
unhappy.
Yeah.
We're a society of PTSDs, if you will. And folks are lonely, folks are nervous, and I know that you counsel folks that are young and otherwise. Tell me how you approach someone who feels that there is nothing for them out there. I mean, the rate of suicides in our country is astronomical now. How do you reach someone who's in despair?
So I'll also give a statistic I read recently where, thinking my age group had the highest suicide rate, it's actually teenagers. It's those in the universities. They're at 27%. I believe my age group is around 20. So I was shocked at that. So despite TikTok or social media, their phone, how often they're getting likes, what you just said is absolutely true for them. So let me answer with some specificity. This past Monday, just a few days ago, I met with 5 women from Afghanistan, and that group has already suffered 5 suicides there because of the Taliban, of course. And the question I had to say to myself when I was invited to join them is, what can I offer, right? And as I sat with that question, again, the unknown, and I'm okay to be with the unknown and trust, the answer I got is actually building trust, right? How can I create this space where we can have trust so that we can have relationship, so that we can have connection, right? So to your point, one of the ways, right, to go beyond feeling so isolated and alone is to connect with someone and have a sense that they can be trusted.
But trust doesn't come easy. How do you measure success?
Okay. So with them, by the way, I'll just end that example, is I was told they may not put their cameras on. We did this via WhatsApp, okay? I didn't fly to Afghanistan. And I said, okay. And they said, and they may not be engaged. I said, okay, I'll accept that. One of the measurements afterwards, I said, all cameras were on and everyone was engaged. So I'm just saying in that small example, for them to have chosen those 2 involvements or actions, I said, okay, I'm doing something right. Now, let me just tell you what we discussed after I briefly gave them some of what you shared, did things in Russia, did things in the Middle East, what I'm doing now. I then said, tell me what's your favorite meal to cook, right? How much we connect, right, over food. And food is a wonderful way to connect. Now, I'm not eating with them, but we discussed that topic. So I started with a topic that they felt they could teach me about what they eat, and they were surprised for me to say, no, in New York we actually have restaurants that serve Afghani food, and they were like, really? And I was like, yeah, right? But I'm just saying I began with certainly a way for us to connect, and I built our hour, and we were just to spend an hour together, just discussing things. I mean, I'll give you one other question I asked. I asked them, what animal, if you could be an animal, what animal would you be and why? Right? And so some of them said I'd be a cat because I can connect to human beings. And after everyone answered, I said, I have 2 animals that I love. One are elephants, because they're just such gentle, beautiful beings in my opinion. And the other is a butterfly, because my goodness, to go from a caterpillar to a butterfly is so transformative. It inspires me. And so I leave some of what, right, that I believe in, my values and transformation, without it being heavy-handed, but rather in a way that I hope they can connect to and enjoy. Measurement. But measurement from my programs, let me just answer that more clearly. I do an evaluation or assessment before the programs begin and after the program ends. And they are rating how fulfilled they are in life. And there are 13 different areas of life that they rate. And my results has been, just in 3 months, the average is a 20% improvement, which many were surprised, up to as much as over 40.3%.
Improvement in?
How fulfilled I feel about my life. So,
giving people confidence, giving people faith in their abilities?
Yes. Human-centric skills. Changing, having them realize that they are blessed with this inner environment that they're totally responsible for. And these human-centric skills of taking responsibility of this environment and impacts how I show up out here. So if I have a cold, one can understand that, or the flu, that would impact how I might show up in my meetings throughout the day. So we understand a physical challenge. We often don't literally see how stress or feeling depressed, right, or alone, how that truly impacts my inner environment and how I show up. So I would also like to say in this interview, might we begin to recognize how, as Albert Einstein said, everything is energy, and it may not be in a three-dimensional concrete form, but this inner energy, this energetic environment so impacts how much we enjoy life or what life we create. And there's no one formula for it, as I hope I suggested earlier. Yes.
So you mentioned, when we talked about unhappiness,
yes,
you mentioned students
yes.
today and the high rate of unhappiness. And this is talked about and written about. What do you tell their parents? Here they are sending their children off to college. Often it's the first time they're away from home for any length of time. And they're worried about them. And they're worried about them going into a student environment where there is a lot of stress, where there is a lot of loneliness or unhappiness, particularly if they can't make the sort of connections with others that you're talking about. The parents that are worried about the kids, is there anything they can do to help them?
I don't directly speak to parents. Often, whoever has been working with me, one example is one of my students, when he got married, I met his parents, and all they could say is, I've heard so much about you, Davis can't stop talking about you. Okay, so it's that, how I hear about my impact on them through.
Do you advise the students that you're counseling to talk to their parents, to discuss their concerns with the parents?
I do not. I really trust that our relationship and my belief in them and their ability to connect more deeply here, to not fear, as I mentioned when I was reading, to not fear my feelings and allow them truly to, just as a parent, right? We both, have children, to accept, when they're scared and when they're happy, right? And to not only accept the good feelings. And in that, just in that, Michael, alone, in total acceptance of it, I appreciate we can, instead of suppressing something which we know doesn't help, right, to really embrace it. And so I really am about agency, for students to have self-efficacy, right, to be able to advocate for themselves. And my belief in them often is felt. Like they know how much I believe in them, because I do. And we're talking about Vanderbilt, Penn State, Cornell, wherever. And those are now, we have 13 universities now who have joined us. And
are you finding that you're working more with female rather than male students? Are the problems the same?
Actually, in this group, we almost have equal amounts, but women are outnumbering men, I would say. And I would say they're different, but they're similar in terms of their quest to answer the question, who am I, and how can I truly create my own life? How do I navigate the challenges, the chaos, the unknowns? I've had, unfortunately, international students have to leave my program because they're concerned about the environment here of being an international student, so they've gone home, right? So, and left the university. So there's fear, deep fear right now at the university level, which is why I love being there, Michael, right? It's like, yes, I can help you, we can support you. And just as in terms of support, I'll just say, we connect them to a partner, like a buddy. We also have a small ambassador team of 3 to 5 people, oldies who have been with me, mentor the new ones coming on. We have the bigger group, all of us, all universities and myself together. So they're with 40 right now, 40 people that support them. And we will, of course, and we get many more applications. They only accept 2 per university. So we get many more applications than I have spots.
When you say we, do you work with others in your environment, other colleagues of yours?
Right. So though I built this 6-month program, and I can explain the content. I've never built a platform in my life, so I've had someone help me where it's virtual, and so all the homework, all the materials, all the logistics, even all their bios and headshots, so they get to know each other, is online. So I have a platform that I'm using, so they, on their own time. However, after every meeting, I always offer a co-working space where they can do their homework and have me there and others to support them. So I'm very much about, because I would have loved this, ongoing support, both, again, one-on-one or in a small group or across the globe, right? So other universities are mentoring, they're at different universities mentoring other universities. And I'll just say the first 3 months is they receive this program and mentored, and then the second 3 months, they become mentors.
They, like you, become a carrier of peacefulness and love. And it's infectious.
Yes, and I appreciate we fall off the horse or the wagon, I'm not sure what the expression is, and just to know that that's okay. We all do that. We all do that. Again, going back to the way we love our children, right? Doesn't matter.
So, and this program, as you know, is entitled Building Bridges. And It sounds like to me that that's what your work is about, to help these young people or others to build bridges amongst themselves.
Yes.
And to hopefully walk away from this sense of loneliness and despair.
Yes. We're there, and I said that even to the Afghani women. We're here. We see you, we care, and we're here for you. Now, I will not make that an empty set of words. I will obviously follow that up and show up as I did, and I appreciate, yes.
I think I read somewhere you wrote a book at one point.
Yes.
What was the title of the book?
Conscious Entrepreneurs, A Radical New Approach to Purpose, Passion, and Profit.
But that's directed towards entrepreneurs or business folks.
Yes.
And is that a different sort of approach than the one you've just been describing?
Not totally different, because again, I believe human-centric skills, communication, relationships, knowing who I am and who I'm not, my strengths and weaknesses, right? How can you be a leader if you can't recognize both, right? And know how to leverage, right, when you need help and when you can step out and leap. So it's always been this inner focus for me, Michael. It really has. Because when I, again, looked within myself, that's where I found the answers, right? And the more I opened my heart to me, the more I was able to open my heart to others. And I just found this magic that the more I cared here, the more I was able to care here. So if I were able to accept my mistakes, I was more able to accept yours. And then we were able to connect and have a relationship. Whereas before, the critic stopped me from enjoying life and certainly stopped me from enjoying our relationship.
So changing people takes time. Obviously, it takes effort and time.
Yes.
And from time to time, I assume that someone indeed falls off the wagon.
Yes.
There's a life issue that presents itself that sets them back. Do you run a hotline? Do they call you 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, say, help, I need help?
I'm available for that, to be honest with you, because I mean that. When you're living your purpose, right, and it's so meaningful to you, it's all pure joy. It really is. I mean, I've been up with my platform developer till 4 in the morning, And yes, I'm physically tired, but it's joyful because it's building something that's so important to me and that I truly believe is my life's purpose. So yes, I would be available for any call at any time. And they know that. As many have said, you've always been there for me.
So do you watch the news from time to time?
I watch it more than we probably...
You know, we have a bunch of world conflicts going on. We have
Yes.
people around the world that are starving,
Yes.
that are sick,
Yes.
and unfortunately don't have the wherewithal to seek help.
The
I mean,
voice.
does that not depress you a little bit?
It pains me a lot, right? I all of the wars, I mean, whether it be Sudan or Ukraine and Russia or Gaza and Israel, I mean, all of it pains me. And as my cancer, I'll go back to that, I say, okay, I trust. If this chaos and man's continuing to harm man continues to unfold, and sometimes I feel exponentially, it's more of a reason then, Michael, for me to keep saying, how can I serve? What more can I do? Use me. I use that word. Please use me. How else can I be a servant in this time? If I'm alive, I must be able to do something. Here I am.
So would
trust.
you describe some of what you feel, some of what you do as
Okay.
spiritual in nature?
Or even pragmatic. I'm always signing petitions. I'm always calling the White House or calling Congress or the Senate, all right? I go out and protest as well, right?
How many times have you been arrested?
I haven't, because I don't fit the profile.
So you haven't
I
had
don't-
that experience yet?
Well, I don't, I mean, even when I came out of Russia, they didn't even check my bags because I don't fit many profiles for arrest, okay? I mean, that's not my fault. That's just what I look like, right? But I challenge myself and to be courageous at this time because personally, I'm very well aware of Nazi Germany. And as a child, or I would see what was on TV, documenting that, and I would be asking myself, Michele, if you had been alive, what would you have done? And remembering that question, I now say, here's your chance, right? Here's now an opportunity to see who you are with these challenges before you. And again, appreciating, let me say, not alone, but with others, like you, Michael. With people who have hearts like you do.
So would you agree that no one really is perfect?
Or I could say we're all perfect. I'll tell you why.
Because I was going to ask you, if indeed no one is perfect, then how would you like to see yourself improve?
I want to hold both. They're like two sides of the same coin. I am perfect just as this breath that I breathe is the same as from the very beginning of my life. So there's some true nature that I have and I believe we all have. At the same time, I'm always gathering data. I'm always trying to learn and apply and, yes, improve. And that brings me a great deal of peace, right? To learn what Mr. Trump is doing today, right, for example, and say, okay, right. To hear that he's arresting someone because they didn't have their seatbelt fastened. My immediate was, oh my God, I'm sorry, was my reaction. And yeah, to take that in and have more empathy, have more reason to do, more reason to call, more reason to protest, again, to do whatever I can do. To ask you, Michael, how else can I serve? Is there anything you're doing that I can support? So it inspires me. I appreciate the emotional feeling that I have in those moments, and yet I then say, okay, and if the universe presents me with an opportunity to talk to Michael, I'll be saying, Michael, what can I do with you? How can I support? So, yeah.
It's like John F. Kennedy, that's not what you can do, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Actually, the giving is part of the key to happiness, isn't it?
Yes, and we're actually wired so that when we do that, the good hormones actually secrete. Think about that. I mean, like, I didn't do that, you didn't do that, right? That's how we're wired. That when we actually do have an act of kindness, right, and compassion, or just listen. I mean, sometimes we think there's so much we need to do. No, we can just be present and listening, right?
So is the first step in this process for someone who may be unhappy or depressed to reach out and undertake an act of kindness as the first step in trying to reverse their feelings?
That's certainly one, but let me say there's no formula, right? Everyone will be motivated or inspired to, whether they saw something or someone else, that it sparks some idea. So yes, it could be simply a smile as they walk down the street, right? I mean, I appreciate someone's not smiling at you, but be the initiator or hold the door. I mean, just hold the door for someone, right? So it doesn't need to be dramatic and Herculean? Hercules.
It's interesting. New Yorkers have a reputation for not being very hospitable and not being friendly, but I have to argue with that. You mentioned like opening the door. Yeah. I see that all the time. I do it myself, and I see others do it. And I do see people walking on the street and smiling at others. So I think there is hope for us as a society, because I think innately people look good. I think sometimes society puts pressures on them that may turn them bad. But innately, I think Americans, look, from a philanthropic standpoint, Americans give more money and more help to the needy than many other countries all put together. And so I think we were brought up as a giving society. But as pressure mounts within society, I think people turn inward.
Or as some people try to separate us or have us be enemies of each other, yes? We then fight with each other as opposed to addressing the bigger problem.
We see divisions in our society today, and it's unfortunate because I even know people within close-knit families that have become enemies simply because of divisions in their political thinking. And that's so unfortunate, because in a civil society we should be able to disagree. You counsel a lot of people. Do you find that through counseling they may make a life decision that points them in a different direction, whether it's studying a particular topic in school or majoring in a particular topic, or whether it's in a job? Tell us about that.
It happens when we take a closer look at ourselves and allow our intuition to be heard, and recognizing if we've been people-pleasing, doing as others have suggested, or even heavy-handedly. You must go to law school or become a doctor, as an example, and realizing that that's really not what I want to do with my life. Or even, those who are empty nesters and holding on to the house, right, and deciding to sell it and go on an adventure. Right?
So in some cases, they're putting pressure on themselves.
They're not allowing others to dictate what their lives are about, and beginning to trust their own intuition, their own heart. And it's a balance between the mind and the heart. And You know, they're both wonderful, wonderful sources of information. And, you know, when we can listen to both, just like we gather data, we can then say, okay, what's true for me? Just, again, be Socratic. Yay, Socrates, right? Ask questions.
I'm going to bet
Okay.
that you get a lot of letters or emails or texts thanking you
Yeah.
and talking about the difference you've made in their life. I'm going to make a suggestion.
Please.
Take those and publish another book.
You don't think it would be too much of an ego thing to do? Oh, I'll tell you what. Actually, let me say it this way.
Well, there's,
Okay.
by the way, there's nothing wrong with having an ego.
Okay.
It really depends on how big the ego is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But let me tell you what I'll do with my students, and this is my idea. Tell me what you think. I am teaching them in the 3rd month of their 3-month program how to listen to Joseph Campbell and tell their journeys, their hero's journey, and record that. And I'm going to put all of their stories together. And as I approach new universities, when they say, what's your program all about? They can then share their breakthroughs and all that they've gained, all the insights, straight as you will from the horse's mouth. So it's similar to, I think, what you're saying, which is they will be telling their story, which is not only healing for them, and it is also healing for those who listen. And one of the activities, of course, will be you'll read my story and I'll read yours. That's another wonderful way to hear each other and ourselves. So yes, I will be using a form of testimonial, but I'll let them speak. I'll let them speak.
Yesterday I was traveling,
Okay.
and I had 3 planes cancel on me. And I've been angry ever since. But I feel so much better now after having talked to you. Thank you so much for being with me today, Michele.
I always love being with you, Michael. Always.
As we close today's episode of Building Bridges, That Which Unites Us, I'm reminded of how one person's commitment to empathy and purpose can ripple across borders and generations. Again, thank you, Michele, for coming here today and sharing your undying belief in the good we can do for one another.
This is Building Bridges with Michael Hershman.